Hi folks, Smudge here again. Tonight, part-time Permies will be our guest on Monday Night Live. Their logo's behind me, and I kind of don't fit, so let me kind of blend in a little better. There, that's better. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Cindy works full-time as a cancer genetic counselor, but loves the outdoors, gardening, hiking, camping, traveling, and trying new things. When they moved back to Michigan from New York, they decided they would try to grow much of their own food with permaculture and biointensive techniques. Michael has an undergraduate degree in pre-med sciences, but instead of going to medical school, he changed directions and went to culinary school. He was a country club chef outside New York City for 12 years and now owns his own pasta business in West Michigan. He's a certified executive chef and also teaches culinary classes at the local community college. They've done a little bit of traveling this past year. Michigan Hootenanny, Homesteaders of America Conference, and also hosted the Great American Farm Tour and the Michigan Meetup. So enjoy the few clips that we have here behind us, and we'll see you tonight. Stream starts at 8:57. See you then.
Hi, this is Cindy.
And Michael.
From Part-Time Permies, and today we're headed over to go to the Michigan YouTube Homestead Hootenanny, which will be a lot of fun with a lot of other Michigan YouTube channels.
First of all, thank you for coming to the very first Homesteaders of America Conference.
Hi.
I'm going to make some Italian sausage. We're going to grind it, pump it, and get it, hopefully get it on the smoker here in the next 45 minutes and have fresh Italian sausage ready to go. So that's our contribution, and thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I don't know. We'll see how it looks.
Okay,
I've never done this, so we're playing with it.
yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Thank you for choosing us.
You're welcome.
That was
It's been a
awesome.
good stop. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So, thanks so much.
Way to represent Michigan. Our only stop, great stop.
I'm live, right?
Yes, you're
Is that
live.
Pointing to me.
You're live.
You did it again. I'm live. Okay, well, tonight we have part-time Permies. I used to say part-time preemies. I don't know why I always did that. But another great family from Michigan. I mean, you know, we can't all be Buckeyes, so I guess Michigan's okay. We'll accept it. They're cool. Plus, we got some of their goodies in my kitchen. We haven't cooked it yet, though. So, get your questions ready, and birthday cake will be flowing tonight because somebody has a birthday today. We won't say who, though. Bald guy next to me. Don't tell him that, though. Okay, are they out of the curtains now?
Whatever you say.
Whatever. Well, let's go.
We'll open the door.
We'll open the door.
Here they come.
Here we go, folks.
And they are live.
Okay, make sure any questions are in caps, please.
Say hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, we'll say happy birthday to the mystery birthday person.
Mystery birthday.
Oh, my. Don't know about that, but...
Well, I surprised you today.
Yeah, I had a nice surprise today.
Took him to lunch, and our daughter-in-law and the 3 grandkids met us there, but he didn't know that his sister and her significant other was also going to be there. So
it was a nice afternoon.
Yes, it was.
So anyway, let's.
Yeah. Well, we have a special occasion this week today also. It is our 1-year anniversary for our YouTube channel. First video went up 1 year ago today.
Very
Cool.
good.
Very nice. Very nice.
So,
Oh, Lord.
well, we have a visitor.
Here's Sam.
You have a visitor now?
Yeah. You can't see him. Come here, Sam. All of a sudden, I hear nails on the wood floor. Our 9-year-old rescue, Sam, decided to come up and visit.
Well, we had our cat up in our laps a second ago.
They can't see you.
Yeah, he's but normally he's downstairs.
Yeah.
But he,
The gate must have been left open.
yeah. Don't know how that happened. Well,
That's
I'm not
okay.
pretty sure I closed. He may have opened it.
Yeah. He is
So anyway,
a smart cookie.
let's talk about Michigan. You guys were originally from Michigan.
Yeah.
Went
We're
to
both
school.
originally from Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And then I went to grad school outside of New York City. And then we got married while I was in grad school there. And we got, I was going to say stuck in New York for 10 years, plus years, until I got a job back here I'm working in Kalamazoo, but we live just outside Kalamazoo, Michigan now. So, yep. We are originally Wolverines.
Okay. And
Although neither of us went to U of M.
but so you were the driving factor in going to New York?
Yeah, and the driving factor coming back.
Although I had lived in New York for about 2 years. I'd gone to culinary school for 2 years in New York, and then had just come back to Michigan when we went back out to New York for the longer term.
Yeah.
So
we actually met in college in Kalamazoo. But then Mike, we were never in the same place at the same time, and Mike went to culinary school while I was still in Michigan. And then I got into grad school in New York after he graduated from culinary school. So we ended up switching places, and then we finally got married and lived in New York. So now we're back home.
well, the culinary school was kind of a change for you, Michael.
It was. I had started my first few years out of college working in genetics research for a hospital, and then decided to give food a try. It was sort of a gamble. Nobody real close to me or in my family had ever professionally cooked. So,
yeah. And the funny thing is, we were dating at the time. You were in Memphis. I was in Ann Arbor, and you called me up and said, "What do you think if I went to culinary school instead of medical school?" And I was like, well, considering I can't cook, that's fine with me.
Goodness. So Michael does all the cooking, I take it. Pretty much.
Pretty much does all the cooking. I can make salads from the garden, or reheat things, but that's about it. I can make eggs. I know how to flip an egg without a spatula. He taught me how to do that.
I'd be afraid to do that.
I can do it. I'm just not sure where it's going to land.
Well, and make it land back in the
pan.
Skillet. And the B lady just asked a question: where did you go to school? Grad school in New York. I went to Sarah Lawrence College. They are one of only 2 schools in New York that have a graduate program in genetic counseling. Now there's 3, but at the time there was only 2 schools in New York, and they were both around the New York City area. So,
Oh.
Well, for explain exactly what genetic counseling is.
Sam, come here.
I do cancer genetic counseling at this point. So I talk to families that have certain types of cancers in their families that could potentially be hereditary. So we watch for certain patterns. Like if someone has, breast cancer is the most common type of cancer for women in general. But if there's a pattern of it in the family or combination of breast and ovarian cancer, the doctors sent to me to talk about whether or not, genetic testing might be helpful at all to them. For some people it might be, some people might not be, but it could potentially play a role in how often they should be screened or what age they should start screening, or ways to reduce risks for those cancers. And everyone's a little different on how far they go with that. But it's basically what I do during my day job is talk about cancer and genetics.
So do you work for maybe like a group of doctors or a hospital or?
I work for the West Michigan Cancer Center. So it's not a hospital in of itself, but it is the primary cancer treatment center in the Southwest Michigan. So we do attract patients pretty much from Holland all the way over to like Battle Creek, even further east, all the way to Albion. We get patients at times, and down to south to the Indiana border here. We get patients from all over the place. And there's only 2 genetic counselors in this part of the state, and we're both at the cancer center. So the next closest place that offers that would be either up in Grand Rapids or over in Ann Arbor. So, yeah.
Very interesting. So, Michael, your culinary skills after you went to school, you wound up working in a country club.
I did quite a few years. I did, I guess, about 12 years in country clubs, sort of accidentally. It was a good job and just continued. So yeah, that was a large portion of my cooking. I've also worked in hotels and restaurants.
So and I really don't know anything about a chef and their jobs per se. I mean, you just think, well, that's the guy back in the kitchen doing the cooking. But there's a lot more to it than that.
It's gotten pretty complex over the years. It's always been a pretty demanding job. It's the combination of hospitality, and I'll tell you, on the public front, everybody kind of talks about culinary art and the artistic and the sell side of TV and schools trying to promote people going. It's really more a craft or a trade, and if it's not much different than being a artisan, builder or welder. It's doing your basics and how well you do it and managing the crew and the project. But now we have a lot of health and nutrition and other aspects that all factor in. And of course, there's finances and making a dollar at it all. So there's a lot going on.
Well, and I will have to admit, and maybe it's because I'm more of a simple person, but I never understood all the fancy displays that they would do with the food, with the drizzling on the sauces, and the little dots in corners of the plates, and it just didn't make any sense to me.
He always says, well, why are they doing that?
Well, that's just the beginning of it all. Yeah, I mean, we have a background in sort of the classical French, which is a lot of our foundational techniques for flavor, but also presentation. There is that art side of making food appealing and trends, and almost like the fashion world, things come in and out of style, showing complexity and technique and one-upping the place across the street. But I think the older chefs get, and the more they get into their career, what I've always heard from people that I train with, the simpler foods and doing the simple foods right is actually more important. And in the homesteading perspective, which is probably why we moved towards a homesteading, kind of a partial part-time Permy homesteading, is because it's about the food and the food quality. If you start with amazing product, you don't have to do much to it. If you have substandard product, you have to cover it up and get fancy so people don't realize you're not giving them great food.
Now, you guys have done a little bit of traveling surrounding your cooking, if I'm not mistaken, if I've picked up on that. Trinidad or something?
Yeah, we've done a few places.
We tried to. Yeah, I did put some old videos towards last spring. Actually, probably late winter when we're probably before the spring planting and everything, and we had a lot of our own footage. I went back to some of our old travel videos from Trinidad and Tobago, where we basically went for 2 years in a row and stayed with families. So Mike can cook with the families, learn the techniques, which is kind of interesting in that region because it's a combination of African, probably 40% of the population's African descent, 40% is East Indian descent, and the rest is a big mix. So you get a lot of Creole with Indian mixes there, which is kind of interesting. we got tours of their gardens, and this is before we knew anything about permaculture, but they're basically doing permaculture in their backyards. Got tour of their gardens, went hiking. We tend to do more of either adventure, cultural, and food related travels. So those were two amazing trips that we got to do about 10 years ago, and I had some old footage that we put up. So we do that. Last time I went to Montreal, Mike went with me, and he was able to explore the food of the city as his vacation while I was at a conference. That'll be happening again this spring, so maybe he could get some video footage of it. But yeah, we do all of that based on a lot of food and culture based.
Well, and Mike, I understand you have somewhat of a following that you've been invited to some celebrity cooking things and different things like that.
I guess part of our job is always promoting where we work, or the difference of when I spent a lot of my career has been in country clubs. It's for a private clientele, so we're not really out there to sell a brand or a product, but we do a lot of charitable activities that promote the community or give back to the community. So yeah, I've done all kinds of cooking contests, all kinds of live cooking activities for, doing special tastes and plates for any number of different foundations and events. Done, in-home cooking, specialty multi-course, 5, 6, 8, 10 course items. Yeah. So yeah, we do, whatever's called for, we try and meet those needs.
Well, the last country club you were at had some big name members too.
Sure.
But yeah.
So the shows that everybody sees on TV, the Master Chef and Gordon Ramsay shows and stuff like that, is that just all fake? Or is that the real deal?
I think today it's more fake than it was 15 years ago. I really got into cooking sort of as Food Network, and some of those things were taking off as a national phenomenon, pulling the sort of hidden world of cooking and bringing it into the professional world. Today, a lot of it really is about media and hype. You need to break down. It's sort of like reporters. There's reporters and writers, and then there's media presenters. And there are two different careers. So there's food presenters and food media and entertainment. And then there's actually chefs that have done or are continuing to cook professionally. So things like Gordon Ramsay, he's a real chef. He's a very talented chef. But those shows are really about promoting him and making him look good. They're not necessarily about making the contestants look good. In fact, they don't take a high-level contestant on many of the shows because they want to find errors. They want to find personality and cause issues. On the other hand, things like Master Chef and Top Chef, things like that, they have some very highly skilled people. They do amazing things. But even like some of those shows, they actually get a week to practice sometimes before they do their final, runs and see what happens. So there is a lot of media behind it, but there's definitely some good cooking if you pick the right ones.
Yeah, like Iron Chef and some of those.
Mike, Life of a Military Wife Kelly is asking, how do you make, forgive me, is it Tortierre? Sounds French.
Just looking for tort.
Who?
It was
a military wife.
Life of a military wife.
It's probably back a little ways.
Yeah, it's up a little ways. Yeah.
We're just going to scroll back here. Yeah.
How do you spell that again?
Tortierre. That's how she spelled it.
Is it like tortine or tartine?
There's no N, but it could be. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
We will find it and we will shortly get back to you because I'd seen some posts earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly,
so there have been so many posts that come through. I forgot.
So one thing I would say, just on a good note. So Master Chef, there's a lot of people that call themselves Master Chefs. I am not a Master Chef. In fact, So anybody can call themselves a master chef, but in the United States, there's something called a certified master chef.
Yeah.
That's through the American Culinary Federation, which is the professional group that actually tests chefs. And there's only about 70, and they go through an 8-day test. So for somebody, I'm very careful about it. When somebody says I'm a master chef, I go, oh, are you really? You say you're a certified master chef, you're proven among your peers. And in Europe, a lot of countries have their own very challenging test. I was able to apprentice for that when I was in school and assist on the full activity. I'm a certified executive chef, so I've gone through some testing, which doesn't make me a better cook than anybody else. It just means I've done the professional background, and I have the knowledge, the nutrition, the supervision, and some cooking skills. So it's good to get out in public what master chef means. And if you meet a master chef, understand they're rare territory and they're brilliant cooks and tacticians of food.
If they're a certified master chef.
Yeah, and there's other people that are master chefs that, whatever. They may be very good, but yeah. A tourtière. I don't know what a tourtière is. Torte is a cake. Well, a torte is basically a cake, so I would have to look up that. So don't know.
Yeah.
Stumped him.
I'm surprised. I really am.
Well, the food world, I can tell you, is moving. The only thing moving faster in the food world is probably technology and maybe science knowledge. You
Genetics.
can't keep up with it. We kind of focus in certain areas. I'm pretty broadly focused. I have a few hundred cookbooks, and it's just so fast that you got to know your own little niche, and it's diversified. We expect that everybody in the United States is a cook. They can bake, they can cure things, make sausage, they can do all kinds, run a restaurant, cater, and that's not necessarily true. We all sort of have our specialties and our areas that we're better.
Michael, I can sit here and look at a bookcase that probably has at least 200 cookbooks in it.
And that's not all of them.
And that's not all of them.
Plus, I have recipe cards from my mom.
Oh.
Yeah. On Frugal Family Food, there was somebody who asked the question, does anybody still use cookbooks on the Facebook page? And I said, I took a picture of one of our, it's like 6 feet tall and 4 foot wide bookshelves full of cookbooks. And I said, there's 2 more of these in our house. But they're like, you actually use them? And I said, well, my husband does, but he is a chef.
Yeah. We figured I wouldn't have to make the same dish for a repeat for the next 50 years. I have enough recipes.
Well, there's a fairly famous chef who was a pastry chef at the White House for quite a number of years. He never made the same dessert twice. Now, you can play with it. You play within themes and variations, and you change components. And frankly, what we do is we don't really cook recipes. When I teach, and I'm a part-time culinary instructor at the college level, we teach theory and we teach technique. And the idea is if you learn technique, you can cook anything because it becomes adaptable. And I try and write recipes that way. So we use recipes to spark our imagination, to check on things, to get ideas or put components together more so than follow them directly. Except for when we're baking, then it gets very specific. Or if we're trying to understand the essence of a specific cook or a cultural recipe, and that's why we love traveling. I lived in Rome for a year during college. I've lived in Atlanta and Memphis and a couple of cities in Michigan and Florida briefly. And so we use food as culture, and learning about culture through food. Yeah. One of the biggest things I teach all the time is people can real quickly not like each other or argue about politics and religion and all kinds of stuff, cultural things. But when you start talking about food, you can have a really open dialogue. You can discuss in great detail how and why you do something, and that other person can understand you, and they can also vehemently disagree with the method that you use to cook something, but you all learn something and usually walk away without a chip on your shoulder. So I find that food is an amazing way to get cultural exchange and to trade ideas and understand each other
also in kitchens, we work with people from all over the world. So you end up working side by side with people you have nothing in common with many times, but then they have your back and you have their back, and you become very close. It's sort of a military type relationship, although we're definitely not in life and death circumstances, rarely. But we use a lot of those experiences to kind of broaden our horizon and trade what flavor and techniques and product mean, and that's what makes a really good cook.
Life of a millwife. It's a French meat pie. They're
That
amazing.
sounds good.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the answer to the tortilla. I was just watching a little bit. And Grizz, you better not whack my kitty.
Ours are outside. You can get to ours.
Okay, well, folks, it's time we do our first trivia question, so let me bring that over here. Okay, folks, anybody that is possibly new here this evening, we always have a couple trivia questions. If you get the answer, and the first one to get the answer, we'll send you a $2 bill. So these are the rules.
And you could not have won in the last 4 weeks. And please, you need to email us your information so it can be sent out.
Okay, so Sherry just kind of
Yes.
added to the rules, but that's what they are. So she just, we've had a
It takes care
problem.
of mailing it out. I can't mail it if I don't get an address.
We need to get an address. But and we enjoy doing this, and we've had a lot of good response with this. So, question number 1 is: until early fall, we had a Great Dane who was a sidekick in many videos. What was his name?
Are we going for correct spelling or just phonetic?
Just phonetic, I believe.
Yeah.
Up to us.
And it's not Pancake.
Yeah, he's not here. No. Sorry, Rusty. I
Nope.
didn't even see you come in.
Hey, kitty cat. Nope.
Nope, not Herman and not Brutus.
Yeah, Great Dane is not a bus, freaky. That's a Greyhound, remember?
Great
Great
Dane
Danes are trucks.
Yeah, it's a tractor trailer. The Great Dane. The
Yes.
trailers are sometimes the Great
That's
Dane.
not Adolf.
Chris, they are huge.
We called ours Little Boy because he was a little shorter.
But that wasn't his name.
No.
Moon Donkey
No.
Pasta.
He was our younger of our 2 giant dogs, original giant dogs that we had.
No, it wasn't Thor.
No.
Wasn't Boomer.
Ooh, Rusty's been listening.
Boomer would have been our St. Bernard.
Our St. Bernard was named Boomer, yes.
But he was not in any of our videos. He passed away the fall before we started this.
Nope, bandana.
Not Tiny. Although my sister-in-law has a Great
Elvis.
Dane named Minnie. No, Juggernaut.
Look at this.
Elvis, George, no. I gotta go back to some of my old videos. There's one specifically on him and Chicken Little. We called him Chicken Little in one video, not Buddy.
Oh, Coco. Coco knows where we're going.
Yeah,
Oh,
Coco
here we
knows
go.
the answer to this.
Bob has it.
There we go.
There it is.
Bob
Bob
got it.
Holmes.
Yep.
Bob Holmes
has
Jello, and he spelled it correctly, too.
Yes, he did.
Because my sister had gifted him to us. She had a few dogs, and he was kind of problematic with her other dogs. And so he gave him to us, and she had already named him. His name was actually Michelangelo, but for short, he always went with Jello, and so that's Gelo.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and everyone misspells it usually as the, jiggly food.
Which is all right, but it actually came out of Michelangelo, so that's sort of a unique.
Yep, but Jello was our Scooby-Doo.
Okay, Bob
Until
Hunt
the
said,
fall.
thank you so much. Be sure you send us an email.
Yep.
And we'll also open up the phone line here. If anybody would like to ask a question directly, talk, just say hello or anything like that.
I actually think I have Bob's address.
I think you
remember
might.
last week?
I think you might.
It was a mix-up between him and Bandana.
Wow, he's quick on the trigger then.
Scrolling through those old videos, maybe.
Yeah. You know when it gets quiet, they have another tab up.
Yeah. Let's see. Scan through these videos real quick.
See if I can find something with the dog in it.
Unfortunately, he passed away in September. And was it September? It was this fall.
September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early middle of September.
Yeah. So it was actually only a week before we went to Virginia for Homesteaders of America. So that was October, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm confused.
No, you're right. It was October.
Yeah, and Bob says it was the video In Memory of My Giants.
Yes, yeah. There's that one as well that we put up right at that point. So
Food Forest Permaculture just showed up. We've chatted with them before.
Yep. Hi, Food Forest. Yeah.
Food Forest Permaculture.
When I click, get those thumbs up. No. Helix is in my lap right now.
Okay. Well, Chris is making a couple comments here. I don't know if you want to share what happened with your Great Dane, or I know you.
Yeah, I mean, I will, because I think for anybody who has giant dogs, that it's a good thing to know about and try to catch early. Both of our dogs ended up with bloat at one time. And bloat is where the stomach twists. There's some theories on why it happens. Maybe they're too active after they eat, or it happens more frequently in nervous dogs, which both of ours were kind of nervous dogs, and more frequently in the giant breed dogs.
Really big chests where they have a big cavity so that their organs move around. And it seems like they just kind of move around, but it's
well, the stomach's not attached to anything in a dog. It's free floating. So the deep chested dogs, dachshunds are at higher risk too. So for a tiny dog, but basically our Saint Bernard had it at 3 years old. I was home when it happened, and I noticed him pacing, panting, drooling, retching but not throwing up, and just looking uncomfortable. And I knew giant breed dogs were at higher risk for it. So as soon as I noticed that, we called the emergency vet. I took him in, and he got emergency surgery for that while we were still in New York. So he survived it, but Jello, unfortunately, it happened when nobody was home. And by the time Mike got home, he was already in pretty bad shape. He took him straight to the emergency vet. They tried to do surgery on him, but it was really too late, unfortunately. So it was definitely sudden.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sudden, and it's sort of like if you go back to the Louisiana singer Dr. John. You're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and all the muscles did the wrong thing at the wrong moment, and ended up sort of a circumstantial thing. And people say a lot of stuff about certain breeds, of course, are prone to it more so than others. People say a lot about it's the feed, and you have to give them wet or you have to give them dry. They got to eat standing up. They can't. A lot of that really isn't,
not proven.
We've done a lot of looking at it after the first time. There may be some things that influence it, but for the most part, it's sort of a circumstantial thing or a random thing that happens.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can try and not exercise them so heavily, but
right after they eat. But the other thing is, if you suspect, June, definitely, if you suspect your dog has bloat, you go to the vet right away, because basically, when the stomach twists, it cuts off the blood supply to the stomach. It builds up the gas in the stomach. It can even cut off the blood supply down the aorta down to the lower limbs. So actually, by the time Mike was here, he was saying that as he drove him in, he felt his toes, his toes were cold.
His toes were cold, and his tongue was a little dark. And the interesting is you can aspirate the stomach. Yeah. It's hard for you unless you've got needles and you do a lot of veterinary medicine or big animal medicine, but you can actually get the air out by giving them some relief. But it's you've got about a 3-hour window, and it's kind of a very uncomfortable, painful. But if you catch them in the first hour, there's a pretty good chance that they can get in, and you basically have to open them up and twist it back around.
And they tack it in place.
Yep.
And actually, they do recommend for Danes, 1 in 5 Great Danes will get bloat. It's the most common, it's the highest frequency for any breed. And they do recommend tacking the stomach if they go in for surgery for something else, like if they get fixed or something. Unfortunately, we knew that, and we asked the vet that we originally had if they would tack his stomach when we had him fixed as a puppy. They weren't set up to do it, so we couldn't do it then. He had other issues too. He had Wobbler syndrome, another Great Dane issue, where a year ago that's basically a malformation of the spine so that it pinches the nerves, and they start losing feeling in their legs. It's basically like spinal stenosis is in humans. But we had surgery on him for that, and he was getting so much better from that. But again, we asked if they could tack the stomach. But for that surgery, they're going into the back of the neck. And it was such a long, complex surgery, they didn't want to extend it and have to reposition him to basically do a second surgery on his stomach, which would have made it very uncomfortable for him to heal. So
yeah, we're set. We're pretty set on any more large dogs. They're going to get their stomach tacked early on, and frankly, if you have to bring them to surgery, it's so expensive that you're better off paying for the tack regardless.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
One of our great peers, she prefers to eat laying down.
Yeah.
Sadie, she won't stand up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our St. Bernard would always lay down and eat. Yeah. Always. He would eat with it in between his paws.
Yeah, that's Sadie. And sometimes sassy, but Sadie always does. She's one of the great peer sisters.
Well, let me say hello to old Alabama Gardener, who I see has joined us here this evening.
Hi.
And I'll tell you what, I would love to see Charles and this couple in a room together just kind of sit back and listen.
That would be awesome.
Charles has a wealth of information on the growing and a lot of his version of the culinary stuff. I don't know if you folks are familiar with Charles or not, but he's
a little bit, yeah. Mainly through the Pratts, and he's joined in the Pratt Family Homestead's live show a few times. And I believe I have him up on as one of the people I follow, but I have so many people on that list that I hardly have time to, watch everyone's videos all the time. So usually I just search for the videos that I'm interested in for my next project and go from there. But he's a master gardener, isn't he?
Well, in my eyes, he is. No, I don't know.
I don't know if he's certified master gardener.
Yeah, I don't know if he's certified or not, but yeah, he's.
Charles, are you a master gardener? Oh, we have a call.
Hello, this is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
Wholesome Roots, you noticed. Right. This is actually the newer version of the Great American Farm Tour mug. It's etched here, so it doesn't rub off. And I'm sorry that yours rubbed off. I saw that in your video.
We did see that.
But this is the one with the plant on it that says just plant in a ribbon across it, which is probably very hard to see on there. But it's one of the silver Justin Rhodes
I think
mugs.
There's a phone call.
Okay, this is Daryl. Who's calling, please? Hello.
Lost him.
Oh, no. Call back.
I don't believe they're here.
And of course, Wholesome Roots, Rose is a master gardener. She's in the room, too. So not to be forgotten.
You're a master gardener, too, right, Rose? I think you took your exam, right? But
I'm a master weeder.
I try not to be. In fact, I learned this summer, we do a lot of foraging videos, and I actually was given for my birthday last spring a once-a-month foraging with our local forage leader, and a lot of my videos are of that. So what I've learned from that is most of my weeds in my garden, not every single type, but almost all of them are edible. So now I don't necessarily pull all of them. I keep some that I want to grow and make salads with, like lamb's quarters or chickweed or a whole variety of them, really, plantain and all that.
This is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
Not coming through.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hello. All right, I'm not sure what's going on here, but they are not. So,
okay, tell us in chat who's trying to call us. Something's not going here.
or Coco.
You talked about surgery.
Coco,
Christine
go ahead and give us a
something.
call here, and because just to make sure that it's working on this end. So, Coco, if you'd give us a call here, we'd appreciate it.
I saw something from Christy Betts saying that even with surgery, animals prone to developing again. If you're talking about bloat, that is true if it's not, the stomach isn't tacked. But usually when they do the surgery for it, they'll tack it at that point so that it doesn't happen again, which is what we had for our St. Bernard.
Old Alabama Gardener just tried to call.
Oh.
Okay, well, for some reason, Charles, I wasn't hearing you at all.
Oh,
So,
no.
Just to make sure everything is working correctly, if Coco, I know that you've called in before. If you could give us somebody is calling. Here we go. This is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
Something's not right.
Hello.
No.
Hello.
Oh, bee lady. Bees are one of the things we want to do, not this year, maybe next year. It's our goal list.
Bandana wants to know if you paid the phone bill.
I'd say bees are more on our short midterm list
Yes.
than our long-term list.
Well, not this year, maybe next year.
Just
list.
not enough time right now to get them set up.
That's the problem with both of us working full-time and doing our gardening and chicken raising part-time and foraging and cooking. Well, you cook full-time. Never mind.
Okay, is there somebody still on the line here? Hello. That's supposed to be you.
It is.
Can you hear me?
No. Yes, I can hear you.
I'm not hearing you.
I can hear you. Okay. Something's up.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Make sure nothing's not working.
Yeah. That's strange.
But,
Yeah, because both of us got touched.
Yeah. Gonna try something.
All right, you guys go ahead and talk. I'm going to hide off in the background here for a little bit.
Oh, I'll ask a question. One idea I had, and I'll have to ask my friend down the road if she's willing to go with us on this. I'm not sure if she would or not, but if she's willing, she raises bees down the road. So my thought was trying to get some information from her. She catches swarms and has about 4 or 5 hives going, I think, right now. So my thought is, if I'm going down there to try to ask her questions and learn from her, and she gives me permission, would you guys be interested in my putting those types of videos up?
This one, too.
Ooh, 175 pounds. Wow. Heavy dog.
Our St. Bernard was 220.
Oh, wow.
Our Bernard he was big and he wasn't overweight.
And he passed at home, and it took 4 guys to carry him out on a tarp.
And I know Smudge can be heavier than what he is. I mean, he's the biggest of all 5. He's the youngest and the biggest. Yeah.
Well, our
Hello?
Dane at his ideal weight was about 125 pounds. He was on prednisone for a while, went up to 150, but once we got him back off that, he was
All right,
about
hold on a
125. And so he's a little boy.
Hey, I can hear them.
Okay, I think. Hello, who's calling, please?
It's
Colleen.
Colleen.
Yeah, it's Colleen. All right, we have it working. Can you hear him, Cindy?
I can't hear them. Oh.
Okay, but at this point, I believe everything is working.
Oh boy.
Was I supposed to hear the caller too, or no?
Can you not hear him?
Can you not hear them?
Nope. Nope. I can hear you guys. I can't hear the caller.
Wow.
Cindy,
there you go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
No.
Hello, Verizon.
Oh, great.
No.
Okay, this is what I would like you to do. Your husband has such a penchant for giving the perfect gifts to you. Can you tell us a couple of your stories? Share with the people Mike's ability to be the perfect husband as a gift giver. There you go, Mike. I set it up for you.
Well, the last 2 years, this last year you gave me for my birthday the Foraging with Nobby, and that was monthly for the whole season. And the year before, I had the conference in Montreal that was over my birthday, and you came out to have vacation while I was working. But it was over my birthday, and for lunch, you went and found some great French or
I stopped at a deli or gourmet grocery store. Yeah,
cheeses, pate, and some crackers. Or no, not crackers. Did you get baguettes? I'm trying to remember what you got on that. Some bread, and it was beautiful weather for early May in Montreal. It was like 70 degrees, and there was a park across the street, and we had lunch in the park. So the last 2 years have been pretty good birthdays, I'd say. I don't know what we'll be doing this year, although we will be in Montreal again. And my birthday's on a Friday this year. So maybe it'll be after the conference finishes up midday and we'll go have fun in Montreal. But we'll figure out what to do there.
That's great, Mike. I really tip my hat to you, sir.
Well, usually I just work enough that I stay out of her way so she can do what she wants to do.
Well, you know what? Those were probably the first 2 years that you weren't working on my birthday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that the other one was a gift through the season, but yeah, these last 2 years were probably the first 2 years since we've been married that you weren't working on my birthday, because he's usually working 90 hours a week for country clubs or restaurants. And now you have your own business.
So now I'm still working a lot. I'm just more often at home working.
Yeah, you're still working like crazy hours, but making pasta and renovating a kitchen. So, yeah.
Super. Well, I'm going to hang up so Charles can get in touch with you, because I know you guys have a lot to talk about.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Coco, I'll just mention one more thing to you. Guess what he made for dinner tonight? You're going to have to say.
I ended up making some lamb curry tonight. We had some lamb from a local farm. He does really traditional lamb and mutton and geese raising.
It's where we got Lucky's eggs from.
Yeah, so I made a lamb curry, kind of throw together. We've been talking about turmeric on our channel this week, so I had some fresh turmeric and some ginger, and we did a throw together with some kale, some pumpkins from our house. The kale was from Nobby and Bonamigo Farm, and some chickpeas and such, and then worked that out. So that was dinner tonight.
Yeah. Oh, the potatoes were super.
And potatoes, too, from our garden.
Yeah.
Let me know if you ever need any Indian spices. I have one right behind me. We live maybe a couple 100 yards from an Indian grocery store, and the spices are so cheap.
Well, we have a place here in Kalamazoo too that I haven't been to, but I'll take you up on that if I'm having problems finding stuff. I love digging into international food, international flavors, and whole spices.
And a lot of the stuff in Trinidad with the Indian influence, they're so good. The chickpea curries, the pumpkin curries, the dal puri roti, and
I'll tell you the two spices that blew me away a few years ago. I started using a specialty spice company and grinding and doing a lot more whole spices. We had an opportunity at one club. We had a budget to do it and felt our members really needed to have access to some better quality items. We came across something called kubeb pepper, which has it's a secondary pepper that has a tail on it, a thin tail. Kubab means tailed. And it has almost like a peppercorn. Like a peppercorn. And it has almost an allspice flavor to it. Blew my mind how good it was and how versatile. And then the other thing that's become more popular, again, is black cardamom, which is not your green cardamom that you use, of course, in sweets, but it's used in the stews, and it's usually smoke dried. And it's just awesome in stews and braises.
And I think I saw that over there, but I'll tell you what, the thing that really blows my palate is the fresh curry leaf. And my employer will make, like, people make Chex Mix. She does hers with Indian spices and that fresh curry leaf. Oh, my goodness, the flavor.
It is amazing. And I do, fresh curry leaf I've worked with a little bit. When you can get fresh lime leaf, even fresh bay leaf. Yeah. Don't get the California, get the Turkish. Yeah. They're expensive because they're perishable, but you can freeze those things. You can food saver, Ziploc bag them and freeze them, and they stay pretty good. And whenever you have a dry spice, it's the resins and the heavy tones that stick around, and you need those for long stewing. But when you're finishing something, having that fresh spice, it's like using dry basil and fresh basil. There's so many spices that just amaze you when you get the fresh product.
And you get him talking about food and spices, he'll go on for a half hour on that. Actually, get Coco and Mike talking. They'll keep going for a long time.
We might be buffering here. I'm going to go ahead and hang up. You guys, wonderful to hear from you. And I'm going to enjoy what you banter back and forth with OAG with.
Yeah. Yeah, Charles, if you're still in there, please call back.
Thank you, Coco.
We think we have it fixed. And thank you, Coco. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. And I want to say hi to BC Truck. I saw him come in.
Mm-hmm.
And
quite a few have
Grandpa's
35.
Places.
35 here. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, Grains of Paradise. Big thumbs up on that. That's a fun item to work with. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. Okay.
That was Grandpa's Place that it. Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes Grains of Paradise is used in beer making, especially summer beers. It's got a light but herbaceousness to it, and so it is. Some of the summer wheat beers and such will have Grains of Paradise.
We have red sumac on our property as well.
Love red sumac. You can make za'atar with it. Yeah.
You can make za'atar with it. And you can make
blend.
Pink lemonade with it, basically. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we do have that on our property as well. We also have staghorn sumac in the area, but not on our property. Is there any validity to research that breast milk kills or stops cancer cells? I have not seen that in particular, but breastfeeding actually does lower the risk for breast cancer. Cancer in general, probably no, but breastfeeding, it probably has more to do with it slows down the ovaries, and people are less fertile, and the ovaries make estrogen, and estrogen increases the risk for breast cancer. So it probably has less to do with the breast milk and more to do with the effect of pregnancy and breastfeeding on the ovaries and basically shutting down the estrogen production for a short time. So it's really...
And estrogen increases risk for breast cancer.
Somebody has to turn down there.
Okay. Charles, is this you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
Hi. I can hear you. Yay.
Okay, wonderful. We were able to talk and communicate here over the magic of a phone line.
Phone through someone else's internet connection. How many connections are we going through? That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Well, I'm guessing he has a wireless phone, so it's going through cell towers and going.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
We sure can.
Shake your head yes if you can hear me.
Yes, we can all hear you.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So I know y'all talk about all these exotic spices and seasonings and what have you, and you got to realize that just an old country boy like me, we probably think something that you think is pretty common that I'm going to think, wow.
Well, we're getting very excited about a lot of what we do in our homesteading is based upon increasing the access to good quality food, as well as exploring the amazing things that exist. Yeah. So a lot of the foraging and a lot of the gardening that we do is to increase variety. But in foraging, we've been excited about things like spice bush this year, and autumn olive and
sumac. Yeah, we're snacking on autumn olive up and down our paths and back. We have 3 acres of woods that are connected to our 2 neighbors that all have paths. And autumn olive is an invasive species up here, so you're not allowed to plant it.
But we got it all over.
We have it all over the place. So we're eating autumn olives in the fall and up and down the path. So it is kind of exciting because I never knew that was edible before I started foraging with Nobby. So kind of cool to learn what's locally grown.
Refresh my old memory now. Where are you?
We're in Michigan. We're
Southwest Michigan, about 30 minutes off of Lake Michigan. So we're just on the edge of the snow belt.
And about an hour north of the Indiana border.
Oh, maybe Benton Harbor area?
You're in Texas?
No, he's in Alabama.
In Alabama.
Duh. Why am I thinking? You know what I started thinking is the Texas boys. Sorry about that.
Daryl Penn?
No. So, yeah, I mean, it's actually some of the stuff up here is similar to down there for foraging, but our seasons are so much shorter that I think you probably get a little more variety in some of the tropical stuff down there.
Yeah. Okay. So you're somewhere, like you said, an hour north of the Indiana line. That may be Benton Harbor, St. Joe area, or further up.
We are 20 minutes from there.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Yep.
Benton Harbor's right on the lake. We're basically straight east of them by about 30 minutes. So yeah.
Oh, okay. When I was a young man, I used to work in Michigan, and we would pick raspberries and strawberries and different cherries and things up there. And
we are right in the fruit belt. We have commercial fruit farms that are
all around us,
a mile away. But yeah, blueberries are huge right here. Strawberries are pretty big. Any of your tree fruits, celery, rhubarb. We're right in the thick of it, and it's some of the best in the country.
Cherries, definitely.
Cherries, yeah.
But we have wild strawberries that grow up here. Raspberries and dewberries and blackberries are all in our woods here, wild. So that I knew about before foraging with Nobby.
Yeah. And we used to work all the way from Benton Harbor to Traverse City.
Oh yeah, up and down this coast, so you get all that's the fruit belt right there.
That's the best. That's the best of the best. I know Washington State has great stuff, and
New York.
Parts of New York, but I say that this area could compete in flavor and quality of product. A little less of that commercial fruit farming is going on here due to economy changes, but the quality is still there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we worked all the way, doing all kinds of, I call it farm work, in western part of Michigan there, and there used to be a carnival kind of a thing many years ago at Benton Harbor called Silver Beach.
Still there, still similar.
Yeah, we're actually closer to Kalamazoo than the lake right now, so we're about 15 miles outside of Kalamazoo. So, but not that far from exactly where you're talking about. There's Mike's parents used to live close to the Indiana border, and his grandparents. And there's a big cherry farm that used to have the pit spitting contest every year for cherry season. So there's a ton of that around here. Around here locally, we're actually a few miles from Welch's. And a lot of people around here grow grapes for Welch's, so that's a big, real local thing right now.
Interesting. We're kind of a few miles away from Smuckers.
Yeah. We used to do that. We used to make a lot of jelly and stuff. All right, enjoyed talking with you, and wish you guys all the best, and stay warm, and we'll get through this next winter storm that's going to hit us. We're supposed to go to 9 degrees tomorrow night, so that's awfully cold for us.
Ew, really?
So,
yeah, it's very cold in the south right now. So
it's actually, we got down to -10 in December. It was definitely cold here. we're at a balmy 20 degrees today as a high. So although tomorrow I think we're getting a little cooler, but we're going to hit 40 this weekend. So we're going to melt again.
I would say one more thing on sort of the traditional spices and things. The most important food and sort of the cutting edge food going on in the world and around here is actually not the sophisticated food. It's really terroir, which is a French term for earth, or the flavor that comes from the earth or from place. And understanding that food that grows in a certain place has a certain flavor, and accentuating that. So that goes right back to homesteading and traditional growing and eating. The top restaurants are harnessing flavor and sense of place and uniqueness, variety of vegetable and of plant and of animal. The number one chef in the world is from a place, Noma, Rene Redzepi right now. And basically he foraged the coast of Denmark along the water, in the swamps and the marsh, and cooked off of the rare and unique things he learned to forage as a boy, as sort of a young boy. And that makes up the foundations of the most sought after restaurant in the world right now. So you're actually in very good place if you're homesteading or foraging or growing your own. You're eating the way that the best the world has eaten. And we have actually, what it comes down to is the wealthy are eating in the sense of the way that the poor used to eat just by necessity, and all the rest of us are kind of eating in between in funny ways.
Well, that's true. And most of the food that people are eating today in America is the reason why Americans are so sick.
There seems to be a lot to be said for the processing, and we don't know all the answers and pathways, but the simpler the better, and definitely the fresher the better. There's no question it's healthier for the short term and for the long term, and
And getting more variety. I mean, there's so many varieties you could plant and grow and forage that, you cannot get that kind of variety in a grocery store. All of it's the same thing all across the board. There's hardly any variety in produce on your grocery store shelves. So if you plant it, you're actually eating a lot better because you have more variety in your diet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, interesting. Enjoyed talking with you, and you guys be careful. Like I said, stay warm, and we're watching you on YouTube. Okay? Good night.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Good night, Charles. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Well, so anyway, there was a question a while back. I think it was Bob Homestead, something about morel mushrooms.
Yes.
And I didn't want to forget about it.
We do get morels up here. Although on our property, last year we found one, but it was so dry last year. We're hoping that we'll get some more this year. Yeah. But we do love morels. I do have a kit to make oyster mushrooms, to grow oyster mushrooms, not make them, grow them. So we're going to play with that soon too.
Yeah, the house we had before we lived here, we had how many acre nature center behind us? 40 acre. Yeah. And you could go there and go foraging and find the morels and whatever. And there is a place not too far up the street, and they buy them. Big money. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big wholesaler in this area that will buy, forage and verify the mushrooms and actually sell them around the country and the world. We are in a good area for morels, up north even more so, but we're in a very good area.
Yeah.
It's just year to year there's variations. We happen to be on a very sandy soil, so it drains extremely quickly, which means our specific property isn't always perfect for it, but we do get some. And our neighbor, who's been here for a while, will know. Our neighbors said in years past there are times where it just littered the property.
Yeah.
But we're waiting for one of those years.
Yeah, and actually that neighbor has moved now to Florida, but they were in the process of selling their house this last spring, and we found 5 morels. 1 was on our property, 4 were under his apple trees, but he wasn't there, so we foraged off his property when he had already moved.
Hey, it was
He's
just
not there.
It was just laying on the ground there, right?
It was just laying on the ground there, and we had already had an agreement to, we could share each other's paths, and we knew they weren't going to be going anywhere because nobody else was going on his property. So, hey.
I see that Bob Homestead apparently
60 pounds.
You got 60, but he usually gets 150 pounds of morels. That's a lot of mushrooms.
Yeah.
So,
it kind of makes me want to have more forested land around here.
So tell us what you have planned for your garden here this year. Your more conventional type garden.
I have some goals for the garden. We do have a big garden. We have 4 raised beds and then this large area that we developed 2 seasons ago, I want to say it was.
That's about 2,000. We're approaching 3,000 square feet of vegetable-ready gardening areas.
And that big area, we do leaf mulching, thick layers of leaf mulch, because we do have forest here, so it's a nice way to use our leaves and build up the soil to help try to hold some of that moisture closer to the plant. So Mike's hoping to have a little more time to work in the garden. I work weekends in the garden pretty much. So we'll hope to be able to do a little more with it this year than last year. We do have 2 goals for greenhouses. One is possibly off our front porch to have the conduit metal that you can bend. People make hoops out of it, but
like a hoop.
We want to go off our roof line and curve down to the ground and basically make our front porch into a greenhouse area. And that side faces south. So we'd like to be able to get that going for extending our seasons. We also have a bunch of old windows. I had the idea of turning those into a greenhouse, maybe out by the gardens for starting plants and things like that. So our goal in the end is really to get a 4-season garden going up here. Kind of the, what's his name for that book? Elliot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we based some of our stuff on some of the traditional or classic Elliot Coleman 4-season, 3-season gardening, because we started on that 10 years ago.
In New York.
On 400 square feet in New York, where we just had a little patch. So we continue to use some of those techniques.
So we try to grow the winter hardy plants in the winter under hoops, and we're hoping to extend that to under a greenhouse, which is basically set up the same way with plastic over the ECM or the electrical conduit. So so we're going that direction with the gardens. We still have our chickens, so we always seem to have projects with them. Got a lot going on. Probably too many things on the list to do in one year, but we did talk about actually part of Liz Zorab's collaboration. We did our 5 goals for the year, and some of those ideas were on there. We do biointensive gardening. We are trying to develop a food forest in front a little bit, so we want to extend on that a little bit. We have some black locust trees, which are nitrogen fixers that are already there, but we'd have to thin them out a little bit because they do shade out everything. Get some fruit trees in there eventually, but that's going to be a gradual project. So we have a lot going on. I have pawpaw seeds I want to put up there, by the way. If anybody knows what a pawpaw is, they do grow naturally around here, and I'd like to try planting those. They're in our fridge, hardening off. If I had time before our first frost, I would have put them in the ground before our first frost, because you can do that up here since we get 3 months of cold. Those seeds really need 3 months of cold weather. But right now they're in our fridge, so they'll go in the ground in the spring or when it's warm enough, put them in. That's pretty much what we have. So we have a lot of projects. We try to document some of our projects. In fact, the reason why I started this channel was pretty much document what was working for us and what wasn't working for us, and it happened to grow, which was great. But my initial goal was so I could go back and look at what worked and what didn't. And if other people were interested, that was great. And now we have over 600 subscribers, which we just went past that mark this weekend. So enjoying it. So if other people have ideas on what they're interested in, let us know. And people are saying, let's see, Mark Jones builds greenhouses with chain link fence. Huh? That's cool. I've seen people do it with the cattle fencing over hoops or just hooping the fencing itself. But yeah, there's a lot of different ideas for making some cheap greenhouses.
Okay, tell you what, it's like 10 o'clock. Let's get this other trivia question going here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Hello,
go over the rules again here real quick. You can only win once every 4 weeks. You must be the first person to answer the question correctly in the chat window as received and recorded in the stream here at Two Family Homestead. And please, you must send us an email with your address within 48 hours, we ask, so that we can send you your $2 bill if you win. So, very simple rules. And question number 2 is, what is the name of the collaboration that we just started on our channel? Now, this is not Two Family, this is Part-Time Permies.
Yep.
But what is the name of the collaboration that they just started on their channel?
I feel like we should be hearing Jeopardy music or something.
Tune, yeah, exactly.
Nope, not bigger than a bread box, not Rumpelstiltskin. People are going to have to look it up. Coco's not allowed to answer because she's supposed to contribute. And Rose already contributed, if she's still in the room.
No, Amber, not pancakes. And he's not even in here
not
tonight.
Pancakes.
Well, it could be.
Oh, yeah, but it's not.
I mean, that could be part of it. Yeah. Is it food related? Has to be. It's our channel.
Green Gables.
Yes. Yeah. Winter Farmstead Cooking Challenge. So anybody who's interested in submitting a video can always let me know. So far, we have Rose, a video from Rose. We have our own video. And I just put up 4 of the Pratt Family Homestead fermenting videos because I asked him if he'd like those to be a part of it. So we have a handful of videos coming, and we have or a handful of videos up and a handful more coming. I think Coco was promising me something. And Two Family, were you going to do one?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You know,
Dan from Grass-Fed was.
We our youngest daughter-in-law did some. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I'm gotta get.
We were in the kitchen, and she never canned before, so I just stood back and told her what to do, and she made raspberry jam. And then after that, she did. She baked some brownies and some spice cakes in mason jars, and then she once they came out of the oven, she put the lids on. I said, once they seal, I said, make sure they seal. I said, they'll last for 2 years. And she goes, no, they won't. Well, my grandson the 3 kids just finished eating the last jar of brownies. So that's how she
the last for 2 years if there's no people around.
Exactly. Yeah. When we took everything out of the shelves, that was in the back, and that was scarfed down so fast.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to say Jerome Bee Farm is rather new here.
Okay.
He just subscribed, I think, maybe a week or 2 ago. So he doesn't really know what the $2 trivia is. So if you want to do a little,
just highlight the trivia.
Highlight the trivia so he knows, so they know what's going on.
Yeah, we every week we try to have 2 trivia questions, something about the people that we have as a guest. Could be what they're doing on their channel. It could be something from their past life or where they, but it has something to do with the guest. And then, of course, we ask the question, and the first one that comes up with the correct answer, they win $2, and we send you a $2 bill, which obviously from Two Family Homestead is just something a little different, something a little fun, and it kind of makes you go research our guest a little bit, because not always, but frequently in the promo video, we'll have some hints in there. I didn't this time because I got the questions directly from Cindy, and I'd already started on the theme of what I was doing on the promo video, so that didn't gel together this time. But a lot of times in the promo video, if you see what videos I'm highlighting, if you go back into their channel and watch those, then you will be able to answer the video questions. So anyway, that's what it's all about. It's all about having a good time and having fun.
By the way, was it Linda was saying she's afraid of pressure canning? There's 2 types of canning. The most common is just the hot water boiled canning, and that's really easy and pretty not very dangerous. Pressure canning isn't particularly dangerous if you have decent equipment, but there's probably more concerns about that. So just know there's 2 ways to do it.
Yep. Okay.
We should probably do a Q&A type thing on one of our live shows at some point. So if people have cooking question Q&A for Mike on a live show at some point, maybe we'll do that.
The other thing, the Winter Farmstead cooking challenge is quite a good one. I think it's fairly easy for anybody's cooking once or twice a week, and if anybody's doing any type of homesteading or gardening or growing, you've probably accumulated things through the year that were in excess, or you stashed them away in cupboards or canned or frozen and hanging, whatever. So the challenge is, tell us in a short video how you are using the things that you've stocked up through the year, and anything at all. And that's about it. So we had some opportunities to work with some green tomatoes, some tomatillos, few other items, but anything that you do,
we'll go to it.
Preferably off of your property, but if it came from your local market or a friend's property, that's probably good enough too.
Yeah, our first video was actually on marinara. We have 2 more coming from our videos that I have that we've already filmed. I just have to edit. That would be the Denver chili or Colorado chili, which uses our tomatillos and green tomatoes, and a salsa verde video, again, using up our stash of tomatillos because we had so many this year. We even had some volunteer tomatillo plants this year that we let grow. The marinara we made 5 gallons of marinara sauce from 18 gallon bags of frozen tomatoes. So we have that as well, and we put the recipe on that, so if people are interested in that. But yeah, we're taking videos. Rose made a kale soup that was like a Portuguese kale soup that looked really good, and the Pratts do the fermenting, so we added that in there. So Pratt Family Homestead, and I'm blanking. Roses, wholesome roots. Oh boy, it's the end of the night. I've been up since early this morning, so I'm getting tired. Wholesome Roots. Those are 2 of my favorite channels. Dan from Grass-Fed Homestead said he would submit a video.
He has amazing cooking and butchering videos, by the way, if people haven't seen his stuff.
And the crazy thing, I think, is I loved watching his cooking videos, but he actually told me that not as many of his followers like the cooking videos as much as the other videos, so he's not doing as many anymore. But he said he would do one for us.
He's a home cook, by the way. He is not a professional. He's very methodical and careful, sourcing and setting up what he does, and he has good technique. And so I actually think his videos are quite nice, but let it be known, he's learning as he goes, and he's done a great job. So
he does a lot of research for his cooking videos too. And he tries to do full utilization, because he raises his sheep for meat. And so he's trying to figure out other ways, and pigs for meat. So he's trying to figure out other ways to use all the parts, which I think is great. It's a lot of what we try to do as well. That's part of our first series last spring, was the breaking down of the red wattle heritage hog and different ways you could use the different things. You made head cheese. You made, I don't even remember half the stuff you made. You made porchetta. You made, I don't even remember. You have to go back to last February, I think it was, when that series of videos came out. But Dan hopefully will do one for us. So, but if you like his cooking videos, you should comment to him that you want to see some. I did. But anyway,
there's another
so we have
in Michigan
channels involved.
Is it Angie's?
Angie does a lot of cooking videos. So does Little Mountain.
Yeah.
Renee does an awful lot of cooking videos. A lot of cooks up there in Michigan. Huh? Yes, there are.
Well, yeah, and Coco does, I don't know, she does a lot of cooking.
I don't know if she's done cooking videos or not, but she's done a lot of cooking, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see her put one together, especially if it's using like curry and Indian food. Oh my gosh.
Oh, one of the things that she gave me when we were at the Hootenanny was a bag of the spices. I mean, just all the way home, that permeated the van all the way home. It was wonderful.
Did you see June said that she used to be a short order cook in a 50
Yeah,
seat?
I knew that. Uh-huh.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, I knew that.
Short order cooking is actually one of the more difficult things to do, because there's so many variables. It's not always the most difficult technique, but doing it rapidly and consistently is quite a skill.
As long as everybody wants a hamburger, I'm good.
Well, everybody likes hamburgers, so you're usually all right.
Oh, you cook more than hamburgers. Oh yes, I have, June. I've seen your videos. I gotta see that last one though. I haven't watched that one yet.
Okay, and the phone line is open if anybody wants to make a call. And I should say we're an hour and 20 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much longer they would like to stick around. We certainly don't want to keep them up past their bedtime.
Well, Kelly just asked, what do you think of hanging aged wild game?
Well, I am a big fan. So I do a lot of charcuterie, which is the fancy term for preserving, basically curing, brining, hanging, salting meats and vegetables. And so I've done some of that on a professional level. I'm a big fan of it. I hung last year some lardo. I made an Italian coppa, which is the shoulder roll. I did a hot and a sweet coppa, and I did a pancetta. I also do some confit, which is cooking and preserving in oil or in the fat. There are all of these things have some precautions to mostly prevent botulism. And some toxins that could be dangerous, but if we're conscientious of the techniques to get around those, I'm a big fan of curing and aging, and basically the controlled breaking down or rancidity of meat and vegetables is a very deep human instinct, and learning how to make it in pleasurable ways and avoid noxious things is quite an art and highly desirable.
Bye, lady. See you next time.
Did you see that Teasers Pleasers is going to join your collab?
Oh,
great.
cool. Yay. Awesome. I can't wait to see what other people are coming
people
up
can
with.
do, really anything. We're looking, so a lot of what we look to do is spread ideas that may seem very common to you, but are not common to others or other parts of the country or world. So just bringing those things out. I'm doing a lot of development recipes right now, sort of along those lines of what's simple. And one of the things I'm finding, some of the videos that we've done for this, like our marinara, is simple techniques that I just do because professionally I've been trained to do that, or we pick up many techniques in the kitchen. other people haven't seen them. And so people respond to the funny things that I don't even think about, are the things that people catch as the most interesting or helpful to them. One thing we say in a professional kitchen doesn't mean that you cook better food than somebody cooks at home. Most of the time we cook worse food because we're under pressure and time and cost constraints, so we have to cook it ahead of time and hold it and try and then finish it. But what we do is we cook when we don't want to, we cook what we don't want to, we cook what we have to. Sometimes we want to, but we understand how to make the process and the machine move so it's ready at the right time, and so it meets whatever our economic guidelines are.
All the shortcuts.
But don't be afraid. Home cooking's probably better. Good cooks go into good home cooks and work with them all the time to add to our professional abilities and displays for our customers.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, one of the things that was commented on the marinara video was that we had talked about freezing the tomatoes. When you pull them out of the freezer and you just semi-thaw them in some like warm, put the bag in a warm water and semi-thaw them, you can just pull the skins right off of it. So
We'd love to see your aging venison, yes.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Something we've not talked about, and we should have a while ago, and I apologize for not bringing it up sooner, is your fledgling business that you have, Michael, with your getting going on your pasta business. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, what I did during the summer, I stepped away from cooking in the sort of professional restaurant, arena, and that's, by the way, food service involves a lot of areas. I teach a lot in culinary, and so most people don't work in restaurants. They work in all other types of food service. It's a much bigger employer. But I've been doing restaurants, country clubs, and fine dining my whole career. But I've kind of stepped away, and I've started a small artisan pasta company. And the reason we're doing that is basically to create a niche that didn't exist here. Of fine sort of Italian equipment and Italian methods of pressed or extruded pasta using high quality ingredients and having sort of a chef driven brand. So we're making it fresh, we're air drying it, and we're right now selling at our local farmers markets and moving into a wholesale and package sales very soon. So it's a little refocusing and honing in on a specific area. More so, and that works well because I think there's a niche that was missing for fine quality product and letting people experience what a really fine quality pasta is. It's a little different than your home rolled egg noodle, which is the alternative and also very good. And we're doing that because right now there's a lot of pressure on cost constraints, on labor for restaurants, labor pools, on giving everything to everybody at all the time, and people have lost quality. So a lot of chefs have refocused on simplifying and making a few things very good and then letting other people move into other directions. So I'm working on that route. I think it meets our current conditions and is useful for me personally.
Well, I see June has asked a question here. Can amaranth?
Amaranth, yes, amaranth is being used in some pastas. There is a huge resurgence in grains outside of wheat. Part of it has to do with gluten-free. Part of it has to do with just general good nutrition or variability and flavor, texture, nutrition component. So amaranth is one of the very smallest grains. It is like pinhead sized. So I am seeing some pastas with it. The challenge with anything that is not wheat is that the gluten in wheat is elastic. There's a structure, and all that chew and texture that we like in pasta really comes from gluten. So to replicate that in any other way is basically impossible. So many times you take a wheat flour and then you blend in other grains, sort of like you make a whole wheat bread that might have 50% white flour and 50% whole wheat or other flours. So amaranth, sorghum's being used, blends of things, sometimes to get around the gluten or the wheat. The challenge is some things are too soft and they fall apart when you boil them. They just starch out.
Like rice.
Yeah, rice falls apart, but other things are too hard. Yeah. And so they give you a crunch, a cardboardy texture. So we're all talking textures less than flavors. Some things are too sticky and gluey, like potato. And so when you have to make a non-wheat pasta, you're going to have to blend a combination of things that are usually kind of too hard and too soft and too sticky to create that combination that artificially gets you a texture that's close to a wheat pasta. So they're very, very challenging.
Okay, and June, the phone line is open here. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but if you want to get a little bit more into some of these questions, feel free to call right in here and talk to them directly.
Potato starch does work in pasta, but it can't be 100% potato starch. So you have some of the most common gluten-free or non-wheat pastas involve potato starch and rice flour in combination. The potato starch is too soft and the rice flour is kind of too stretchy. And if you get into the details of it, there's a lot of physics and chemistry going on.
Yeah. Phone call.
Hello, this is Daryl. Who's calling, please?
Bandana Grandma here.
Well, hi, Susie.
Hi, Bandana Grandma.
Hello.
What are you?
I had a question.
Sure.
Okay. I heard them mention that they were having a collaboration, and I wanted to know, I wasn't clear on what the guidelines were for submitting something for that.
It's pretty darn loose. It's basically taking things you've grown, stored, preserved, and cooking with it. So it's really making winter food in a way, traditional winter food from what you've grown and stored on your property. It could also be things you're still harvesting in the winter. So basically focus on winter foods and what you have available from your property.
We're harvesting snow.
And the details are that if you are willing to shoot a video and either preferably post it to your site or YouTube and then link us.
And let us know.
And let us know by an email. Otherwise, if you don't have a site or something, you could
Bandana Grandma has it.
You can send stuff to us. Yeah. We might even look at a montage picture. If you shoot a string of pictures and have a description versus a video, I think that's a pretty good way to do it also. So we do have some openness to how you present your material based upon what you're familiar and comfortable with.
And by the way, basically, you've put the link to your video in our, either send it to us or put it in our first video that announced the challenge, or link it anywhere there, and I will add it to the playlist. So that sounds easy enough. Interpret. I'm sorry.
Now, Bandana's going to have fairies making this, so.
Is that cheating?
Oh, you didn't see her picture today. She found a picture of a Singer sewing machine, which is in my mind is awesome because that's what my mom used to sew on. But it had fairies. It was perfect.
No, but I want a Singer sewing machine.
How do you think I'm getting all those mittens done?
I'm telling you, have to have those fairies help you. That was the best picture I've ever seen. That was so perfect.
I think my dad actually has not the sewing machine, but the sewing table, Singer sewing table. Mm-hmm. I think he has it in his barn. I'm gonna have to go. He collects antiques, almost to the point of too many antiques.
Yes.
So he used to have an antique furniture store. So I'm just gonna have to go picking through his barn. If you talk about pickers, and just figure out what's in there at some point. But we don't really have a whole lot of space left in our house is the problem, and Mike might get mad at me if I come home with too many things.
Well, we don't have anywhere to put them at. We'll just put them in our barn and at some point.
All right, well, I'm not going to keep you. I just had that question, and you answered it, and I'm going to be thinking about that one.
Yeah, anything to show other people what you're doing, that's great. We're all about promoting everybody else's activities and introducing people to other people. And so happy to do it and excited to learn from what you're doing.
Absolutely. And the thought I had also was, if we're all trying to grow our own food, preserve our own food, and eat our own food off our own land, if some people start running out of ideas in the winter. If you have certain things stored all winter, like we have, I don't know, still 20 pumpkins down in our basement.
Yeah,
and we're trying to use
in that range.
We're trying to work through our pumpkins.
Use one tonight.
Yeah, we did use one in the curry tonight, but work through, our pumpkins, using them in various dishes in different ways. So the more ideas that come together, I think it helps other people use their products.
We also have a winter's farmers market, so we buy a few things from there most weeks.
Yeah.
So it's sort of through our natural weeks, cooking and activities, or just actively snapping some pictures or doing a quick video on how we're trying to make use of items.
Yeah, and we do have an Instagram page where we have a lot of pictures.
Yeah, a lot of Instagram, both part-time Permies, and then I maintain
the pasta
Instagram with the pasta company, and I maintain a personal Instagram. They're all food-driven and just kind of showing off instantaneously what's taking place.
Okay, I hear another call coming in, so I'm going to hang up. Thanks for answering my question.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Jim.
Hello. Hello.
Your name gives you away now, June.
Yeah,
My last question
June
about
is on the phone.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, it's me.
Hi, June.
I can hear myself echoing. That's so weird.
Yeah,
okay,
it does echo sometimes.
Yeah, okay. And my last question about the pasta. I forgot what we were talking about for a minute there. The last question about, can it be made without salt?
Yes. All the pasta that I make has no salt added to it. The reasons are a few. Pasta is very simple, by the way, and it's also very complex. But salt does have a slight inhibition of gluten, so there's no reason to add salt to your pasta because it'll actually remove some of the chewy texture. And because you usually boil in heavily salted water so that you absorb some of the salt into the pasta, therefore seasoning it, there isn't any particular need to add salt during the cooking or the making process. In fact, I'd recommend not adding it.
Right, because I don't cook with salt at all. I'm on a no salt diet. I'm not.
Yeah, you don't need it. It's going to be better. So you can basically use, I make two types of pasta. My primary pasta, because I use a pressure extruded and a low moisture, which allows a better chew. I use flour, durum semolina flour. So durum is the hard, high-protein wheat flour. Semolina is the largest grind. It's filtered out for the large grind. 00 is your fine grind. And so I use those, and it's just flour and water in a very precise ratio. In egg pasta, I start replacing my water with whole egg, and now I have to work with the introduction of fats and proteins, and then I know the ratios of how much water is contained in an egg, and so I need to balance my recipe to get around now fat, protein, water, and hydrate my flour and still be able to get it through my equipment so it doesn't turn into a big ball of gummy dough instead of a nice loose mealy dough.
Right. I might check your Instagram out because I've never done pasta before. That's one thing I haven't done. And I'm on a very restricted diet. It's literally no salt and very little to no fat. So
and pasta has no fat in it. The garnishes are hard, but you can do lots of vegetable. Look up a basic pasta recipe for a made pasta, for a rolled pasta, which is softer, is basically flour, and you don't have to get a special flour. You can use an AP or a bread flour, a high gluten or a high protein flour. It's usually 3 to 5 eggs to a pound, and it's usually like 3 whole eggs and 2 yolks is a good one. Some people put salt, some people put a drop of olive oil. Like I said, not necessary at all. And you can mix it up in a KitchenAid. You need to use the hook, because it'll be a very, very stiff dough. You need to use a hook, and then you have to finish a little bit of rolling, and then you can let it rest so the gluten relaxes. Roll it out as thin as you can get it and hand cut it. And that's sort of a old style, farmhouse style egg noodle for stews, and it really tastes great. It's different than what I make, but it's very doable in pound batches at home.
Mm-hmm.
And a pound will serve 4 or 5 people.
That's probably
sorry, I have to do it by hand though because my kitchen it got stolen. So, but thank you so much.
That's probably what a lot of people would refer to as like Amish pasta.
Exactly. That's your Amish noodle or your German Amish country farmhouse. It's an egg noodle, so it's a softer, more hydrated dough. Very tasty. The hardest part is rolling it thin. You want to roll it as thin as you can get it because it does swell. You know, it takes on at least double the water.
Right.
Now, if they're too thick, you just boil them longer. And you can hand make this dough. It's a lot of hand strength. It's a harder knead and a roll than even a loaf of bread, but it can be done in 1 pound batches by hand for sure. I teach that for beginning culinary students. When we make pasta, we do it by hand at first.
Okay, thank you ever so much.
Yes, thanks for calling in. And I did want to mention, I think Teaser Pleasers up the top was asking about storing pumpkins. And all we did was take our pumpkins from our garden and put them in our basement. That's all we did. Our basement's a little cooler.
They're just in some crates, yep.
Yep, they're just sitting down in some baskets in our basement, and we take them out and use them as needed. They've held up for most of winter.
I think 2 of them have rotted. We threw to the chickens, but they may have been damaged or rotting anyways. They do have some airspace. They're just piled up in some wooden bushel baskets. Yeah. And then we have potatoes next to them that are stacked between hay. They're doing great. They're not hardly dehydrating. They've got very little eyes growing on them, and they're in really good condition.
So I have the potatoes in the baskets that have a layer of straw and then a layer of potatoes and a layer of straw, layer of potatoes. So, and covered up in straw at the end. So they're holding very well. We didn't do anything to preserve either of those. Otherwise, they're just in a cool, dark basement, and we use them as needed. So those are our primary things we're trying to go through over this winter. So far, so good.
I mean, we have sauces, we have jams, we have some jellies.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of pork left from last February from the Red Wattle Heritage Hog that we purchased from a local farm. Few other things, but that's kind of the bulk of what remains at this point.
Yeah. So that's kind of our inspiration for our collaboration right there, is going through these products and how to use them and all of that.
Well, I think it's a great topic.
I still have a butternut squash from 2 years ago that I haven't used, and it's still good.
Really? It hasn't you sure it isn't just a dehydrated maraca on the shelf? I'm shocked. Wow.
I may just use that up for this video. It might be a good idea.
Well, you can make some great pumpkin gnocchi. By the way, butternut squash works as good or better than pumpkin in any recipe that uses pumpkin, because it's a little lower moisture and it's creamy and good flavor. So really versatile.
And I'm going to give that a shot. Just may get it out and cut it up and see what happens.
I'm going to stay in the living room. I don't go in the kitchen when she has knives out.
I want one of those little flame things to, brown the tops of marshmallows.
Yeah. The little torches. They sell a great one now. It's a cheap one, and it goes on top of the butane cans for maybe $10 or $15. And it's a little trigger push, and it sits on top of your butane burner can, and you use it to brown off things and just finish things off.
Oh, I'm dangerous with a knife. I can only imagine what would happen then.
Well, it's about an hour and 45 minutes in, and I've had a great time. So.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Absolutely. But I probably should wrap up my part, at least, unless you guys want to keep talking to the chef here. But I do have to work in the morning myself. But
yes,
absolutely. And we always.
I gotta sell pasta at the market tomorrow.
Oh, I forgot.
I got morning market. Yeah.
He has to get up.
We got to leave everybody wanting a little more. So we certainly thank you, and we've had a great evening. So
absolutely.
Have
a good night. Absolutely. Thank you for having us on the show. It was fun.
Thank you for
probably
being
keep
on the
talking
show.
all night.
Okay. So, any questions? We've been putting up their email, their contact information, all that. So, make sure you get a hold of them.
If anyone that isn't already, if you'd like to be a guest on Monday night, email us. Even if you're a small channel, there's no set limitation on how many subscribers you have. So, we can have a fun time.
Okay. Having said that, wish everybody a wonderful week. We will have the editing class tomorrow night.
Yes.
If you'd like to participate in that. And if not, we'll see you next Monday. So take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Good night.